Debate Week in Michigan coverage is sponsored by AARP Michigan. Tonight, Debate Week continues. After months of campaigning, the race for governor of Michigan has tightened. The stakes couldn't be higher. 3 candidates, 3 unique perspectives on the future of our state. The voters want to know.
Things are kind of expensive.
Everything costs me more to do business right now.
Focusing on the availability of jobs.
The crime is getting out of hand down here.
The race for governor is on the line, and this is their last chance to win your vote. Mike Cox.
Rip up the income tax and revolutionize Michigan's education.
John James.
Michigan needs to be strong in order for the nation to be strong.
Perry Johnson.
We're at a critical juncture in our state. People are hurting.
No spin, just the candidates on one stage. Live from the WOOD TV studios in Grand Rapids and your local election headquarters. This is the final night of Debate Week in Michigan, Republican governor primary.
Good evening. I'm Rick Albin, your moderator for tonight's debate, along with Amber Crisco, who will be here with viewer questions. Candidates, welcome to you and welcome to viewers across the state watching here on WOOD TV, our sister station, WLNS in Lansing, and partners in Detroit, Marquette, Alpena, Traverse City, and Flint. This truly is Debate Week in Michigan. Here's a quick review of the rules. Each question goes to each candidate for a 60-second response in an order determined by a drawing earlier in this process. A 30-second rebuttal will follow after each candidate has given their initial response. The only possible change to that would be for the final question, depending on how much time is left in the program. We may eliminate the rebuttal or adjust the length of time to answer the question. There is no opening statement. There will be a 60-second closing. It is time for our first question as we continue with Debate Week in Michigan. Gentlemen, thank you again for being here. It's no surprise that in every survey we look at, the cost of everything is the biggest concern for Michigan voters. And it's everybody from young people just starting out, young families, moms, dads, seniors. Michiganders are hurting. And given that many of the economic pressures are global or national, what could you as governor do to make living in Michigan more affordable? Congressman James, we start first with you with a 60-second response.
Thanks, Rick. I have a 3-point affordability agenda that starts with health and then goes with housing and energy. We're going to be focusing on mental health, providing more resources that our schools, our jails, and our hospitals were not designed. And we're also going to have patients deserve price tags in the state of Michigan so we can increase transparency and accountability to lower the cost of health care. We're also going to be looking at housing, reversing harmful codes that make it more expensive to build houses, which will also increase access to housing and lower costs. And then energy. I'm going to be working with the legislature to repeal Gretchen Whitmer's Public Act 233, which would give local control for energy decisions back to the locals. We're going to keep Line 5 open, build the energy corridor, working with Enbridge at no cost to the Michigan taxpayer, and we're going to stop these self-owns that make energy, housing, and health more expensive in Michigan than they are in other Midwestern states.
Mr. Cox, 60 seconds, sir.
Thank you, Rick. As I was Attorney General, I took on cost of living issues. I grew up in a working class family. My dad was a carpenter, my mom was a maid. And as a young man, I spent my 20s as a single father struggling, trying to raise my daughter and get ahead. So I feel these issues. I felt them as Attorney General. And that's why I took on Blue Cross and saved over $700 million for seniors. That's why I took on the utilities, saved over $3 billion in rates, which not only impacts you at your home, but also makes manufacturing cheaper and easier. I also took on Big Pharma. I also took on Walmart when they mislabeled food prices. So I've been in the fight for quite a long time. What do we need to do? Repeal Governor Whitmer's Green New Energy scam, which over the next 4 years, ladies and gentlemen, is going to add $11 billion to your rates. What else do we need to do? More competition in healthcare. We have too many consolidated hospitals, and that starts with going after Blue Cross, which created monopolies in insurance and healthcare.
Mr. Johnson, your turn for 60 seconds.
The major problem we have right now is the fact that we're giving too much money away to the government to throw away. That's our biggest issue. Right now, we're taxed on everything. You're taxed on gas, sales tax, income tax, property tax, corporate tax, and pretty soon we're going to be tax again instead of Michigan. I spent my life bringing quality and efficiency to companies. I want to take that skill set and bring that to our state government. And just like I worked with the Navy and DOD, we can lean things out through my mega audit, Michigan Efficiency Government Audit. It starts by taking a look at all these things that are available. We know right now there's nuttiness going on. We know that literally $1.8 billion was spent trying to get jobs. Well, we got a grand total in this effort of 600 jobs. That's $3 million a job. But I'll go through each one of these, and we'll eliminate the state income tax. Everyone will have $4,747 every year, year after year. Think of what they can do with affordability then.
I'd like to follow up with you for 30 seconds, Mr. James.
Of course, affordability is at the center of everyone's mind, and increasing economic opportunity is more than just brick and mortar. It's about flesh and blood, allowing folks to also be able to increase their ability to make money by making it easier to grow jobs, create jobs, and allow innovators to compete, which is the reason why I'm going to be focusing my philosophy on retention, then reclamation, and then recruiting, focusing on changing the structure in Lansing to eliminate things that are unnecessary, consolidate things that can be run better, and then streamlining the process to focus on a culture that will promote jobs, promote business, and economic opportunity for everyone.
Mr. Cox, 30 seconds.
Thank you. I agree with Perry Johnson that we have to eliminate the income tax. If you go to my website, Mike Cox 2026, you're going to see that a year and a half ago I proposed that idea. And how do we do that? We need to reduce spending, as Perry mentioned. I'm the only one running who's actually reduced the size of a state office by over 20%. No one does that. No one does that. What else do we need to do? We spend $6 billion on wasteful buying jobs, trying to buy jobs, taking your tax dollars and giving it big corporations, and we need to address that.
Mr. Johnson, 30 seconds.
Keep in mind that if we go and reduce our expenses for the government, we're in a position to not only eliminate the income tax, but reform the property tax. We can't be in a position where people, when they turn 65, are literally unable to live there because they can't afford the property taxes. It all starts with streamlining everything. And I've spent my life bringing quality and efficiency to all these organizations. That is my skill set. I want to bring that to our state, and every state that eliminated the income tax ignited that economy.
We ask our viewers if they could be here in this studio, what they would want to ask you. And Amber Kriska has been gathering those questions together. This will go first to you, Mr. Cox, for 60 seconds. Here's Amber with that first viewer question.
We received a lot of questions about this next topic. Gloria Lynn wants to know, I hear all kinds of talk about eliminating income and property taxes. How can this be done without eliminating essential state services?
Well, thank you for the question. A couple things to begin with. First and foremost, 90% of property taxes are local. But we should eliminate the state mills. Eliminate the state mills for farms, homesteads, and seniors. What else should we do? We should cap or move all elections to November that involve millages. Eliminate the sneaky May and August elections, and we will control property tax prices. That's what we can do right now. Number two, eliminating the income tax. People forget that grows revenues. When JFK reduced taxes, income taxes, revenue went up. We see that in Tennessee, Florida, Texas. Prosperity heals a lot of what ails us. We need to follow that, the example of those states. In fact, there was a poll of 120 NHL players who said that they would go to a no-tax state in their next contract if they could, because they understand that, and businessmen and women understand that as well.
Mr. Johnson, 60 seconds.
We've had a declining population over the past 30, 35 years. We can ignite this entire state. Think of what will happen in the financial industry over there in Chicago. They now pay 4.95% tax. We have a tax eliminated here, people will flood back into the state. Property values go up. Demand for houses go up. Everything ignites. It starts by leaning our government. The most important thing to understand is that I've funded my own campaign. That means that when somebody goes and gives a donation, I'm not beholden to them to do their bidding. I can do whatever I want because I can lean our government with no one leaning on me. Unlike politicians, we're in a position right now where we can actually go in with my mega audit, find all of our inefficiencies, and then clean everything up. So suddenly we have an efficient government. And I will bring efficiency to this government just like I did the Navy, DOD, and all the 60,000 companies I work with.
Mr. James, 60 seconds.
Cut the pork. Think of pig. First, we're going to cut pet projects from politicians in Lansing. That's $1.5 billion. Then we're going to cut improper payments and fraud. That's $0.85 billion. Then we're going to cut general funds that are unspent. That's $0.65 billion. That's up to $3 billion cut that goes directly to you in year one, and that's going to result in a 20 to 25% income tax cut that takes us into the threes, that makes us more competitive with other states like Indiana and Ohio. The next thing we're going to do is we need to cut spending. If you have Nick Shirley, a journalist, who can go into Minnesota and find $9 billion in fraud in Waltz's government, the state that's 60% of our population and 50% of our budget, then you know with Gretchen Whitmer spending $20 billion more than she spent during the height of the pandemic and 50% more in her new budget than she got in the old one, how much more fraud, waste, and abuse we can find. I'm willing to work with anybody around the state, including protecting whistleblowers, doing the right thing, including these gentlemen here, to cut fraud, waste, and abuse, put more money in your pocket.
Mr. Cox, 30 seconds, please.
Well, Congressman James just mentioned cutting pork. And it's a bit of Washington talk, saying one thing and doing another. As Congressman James knows, his company received $2 million in the corrupted MEDC grant to create 105 jobs and actually laid off 32 people and never paid the dollars back. That's $6 billion that we've been taking from everyone's taxes and giving out to corporate fraudsters. That will stop in a Mike Cox administration, and we will be able to cut taxes and do more for the people of Michigan.
30 seconds, Mr. Johnson.
They're actually getting to my skill set. It's like they'll probably be voting for me because I've spent my entire life bringing efficiency to all of these companies. Navy, DOD, that is my expertise. If we want to lean our government, we have to first go in there, understand have to have a skill set to be able to do it. Now, I admit I can't fly a helicopter like he can, but I guarantee when it comes to efficiency, there's nobody better in the world than finding things to be more efficient.
30 seconds for you, Mr. James.
So in 2008, when that MEDC thing was going down, I was in Baghdad fighting for America and frankly, fighting back against terrorists with Hellfire missiles. That $2 million, this is a story that's been debunked. It was a Democrat talking point. But since you mentioned it, Mike, we've returned $7 million back to the taxpayers. We've created over 300 jobs and also charity. And those folks, frankly, because integrity matters to me and my family, those are people who are committing unemployment fraud, and we were able to make sure that that we did the right thing there.
All right.
Am I allowed to address that?
Yeah. What about if it's inaccurate?
I'm going to give you a chance to address it as we get into this next question. You can use part of your time for that.
2008 is a little different than 2012 to 2017, but thank you.
Here is another viewer question with Amber.
Can Republicans and Democrats work together? Our next question is from James Carter. He says the United States is suffering from partisan division caused by both Republicans and Democrats in Washington. As governor, how would you avoid worsening this divide and try to heal it?
Mr. Johnson, you go first with 60 seconds. How are you going to get along?
Well, the bottom line is that's what politicians do. I'm an outsider. I admit I'm not a politician. I'm a guy that's in the outside of the outside. And when politicians are arguing, they all have their own special interest. See what happens. You have somebody like with John James. He has somebody that spent $107,000 because that person wanted to build a data center. That biggest builder of data centers donated that money to him. $39,000 from the people who are powering the data centers. Now he's obligated. He has another group donated $5 million. Believe me, they're beholden to him. When you have somebody like me who's funding his own campaign, I'm beholden to no one. So I'm in a position where I can go and do things that is best for the state because I don't have to return favors to anyone. That's a key element. And all these people have favors, so they can never seem to get anything done. What we need is an outsider just like President Trump, who can bring people together and get things done.
Mr. James, 60 seconds.
Rick, I'm going to submit to the Lord and serve his people. I'm here because I have a passion for service. That's the exact reason why I went to the military and fought for this nation. It's why I came back to help grow jobs and bring hope back to many Detroiters after the Great Recession. It's why I deployed to the swamp to push back on socialism and support President Trump's America First agenda. I'm going to lead by example, working with anyone and everyone across the state, all 10 million of us, to bring us more to prosperity. I was raised by a pair of Democrats from the Jim Crow South who taught me to believe that we work with everyone to make folks better. I was able to get a bill signed to push back and end the hurdles to combating human trafficking. Got that signed by Democrat President Joe Biden. I also got a bill signed pushing back against harmful EV mandates that's signed by President Trump. I will work with anyone and everyone to the benefit of the people of the state of Michigan. I will lead by example, and I'm excited for the opportunity to lead everyone, all 10 million Michiganders.
Mr. Cox, can Republicans and Democrats get along?
Absolutely. But it starts with being credible and honest and telling the truth. The congressman talked about the MEDC grant being in 2008. It was actually in 2012 to 2017. He was the president from 2013 to 2017. Go to johnjameslies.com, and you'll see articles from the time there. But how do we fix the partisan divide? When I was a Marine, we didn't care who was a Republican or Democrat. It was about getting the job done. When I was a homicide prosecutor for 13 years in Detroit, we didn't care about who was a Democrat, who was a Republican, even though I was surrounded by Democrats. And my jurors were Detroiters, largely Democrats. And I had to talk to them like a regular person and get them to look at the evidence. When I was Attorney General, when I was in the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, Mike Duggan put me in charge of the homicide unit. A Democrat promoted me because I can work with Democrats. When I was AG, I worked with Democrats on fighting the utilities, on getting child support done, on getting background checks in nursing homes, and a whole lot of other good work.
30 seconds, Mr. Johnson. We're still talking about bipartisanship.
Keep in mind that when Mike Duggan left, the Southeast Chamber was endorsing him. They came then and endorsed me because they thought I was the guy right down the middle, the independent, the guy that can do everything for everyone. Why? Because my whole focus is on bringing quality and efficiency to our state so people can keep their money. When people have more money to spend, they're all happier. Rich or poor, it's nice to have money. Let's work for the people of Michigan.
Mr. James, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, I'm proud of what my family has done to create jobs and opportunity for folks in the state of Michigan. And if you want to learn more, go to johnjamestruth.com to see the lies. And frankly, Mike, if you have some questions, if you don't understand the automotive industry, I can share with you about how General Motors and Ford actually do business with EDI data transfer, and the fact that we don't actually do that, but we're working as suppliers for Ford and General Motors. But the fact of the matter is, Perry, you are a politician. You spent $12 million, got kicked off the ballot for fraud, spent $30 million to primary President Trump, and you're spending $25 million to lie about me. So, as a politician, but you're just a failed candidate. I've actually been elected in Southeast Michigan.
You have 30 seconds.
And plus the 30 seconds for the
rebuttal
that I don't know anything about the manufacturing
The rebuttal
industry.
to the rebuttal?
You have 30 seconds.
Okay,
as a
number one, I do know a whole lot about manufacturing. My whole family's been UAW members forever. I'm the son of a union carpenter. I understand what outsourcing has done to Michigan over the past 3 decades. It's decimated. And you can smile about that because you're the son of a CEO. You're the son of the CEO. That's why you smile about people losing their jobs. I'm not. I'm here to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. And you can talk some rap, but that's total nonsense. If you go to John James,
you might need some help.
John James, excuse me?
It's not on your hand. You might need some help.
Yeah.
Or was that your secretary?
Yeah.
I'm going to get a rebuttal to the rebuttal too, right?
I get to finish, do I not?
Look,
okay, John, if you go to James Made in China, you're going to see that there are 920 shipments since he went into Congress
all right, we've
from
got to
China.
wrap this up.
Okay.
Time is up.
All right.
Next question is going to go first to you.
Do I get to respond to him?
Look, each one of you will have an opportunity to respond in every successive question. I'm not going to stop every time there's is an issue. So you'll have 60 seconds in just a moment.
All right.
Okay.
Another question for you to consider, along with your rebuttals, if you would like to answer this. One of the keys to keeping Michigan economically healthy is jobs. We've just been talking about this, right? And we have watched as the state has put economic investment out there that sometimes does not result in the kind of jobs that are promised. As governor, how would you use state resources to make sure Michigan's workforce has the opportunity it needs? You have 60 seconds.
Mike Cox, I'm the son of a CEO who was a truck driver. His father was a mason. His father was a sharecropper. His father was a slave. How dare you shame the steps it takes to come up from Mississippi and build a life of prosperity for a family like mine. We've been dedicating our lives to service for people like you and people like you. And I'm going to continue that when I'm governor, because I understand what it takes to bring people together to accomplish tough missions and to make sure that everybody has prosperity. The things that we're going to be doing to use public resources to execute this is starting skilled trades training in public schools and in private schools. The things we're going to be doing is prioritizing VOC over woke, vocational schools over woke universities that are trying to get rid of Western civilization. We're going to be making sure that we have healthier Michiganders, investing in wraparound services, public-private partnerships, so you can keep more money in your pocket. These are the types of things that are going to bring us together and make us all more healthy, rather than resorting to cheap attacks.
Mr. Cox, you have 60 seconds.
I agree with you. Your father is an honorable man. I met him at a number of your fundraisers that I went to help you when you ran and lost before. So I do agree with that, and I do respect him. But he's different than you. In terms of workforce development, I'm the son of a carpenter. So if we fix K through 12 education, we start to get our kids to be like Mississippi, where they learn to read by the 4th grade, by teaching phonics, by requiring tutoring when kids struggle like my granddaughter did in Mississippi, and by grading every public school and requiring 3rd grade reading ability before you get promoted. That sets the track to then when you're in 7th, 8th, 9th grade, middle school, and you want to decide, I want to go to a skilled trade or a badge trade or a certified trade, it puts you on the right track. Right now, Rick, only 40% of our 8th graders can do math and reading at a grade level. We start fixing K through 12, and we start preparing the workforce for the future.
Mr. Johnson, you may respond, and you can also answer the question about jobs.
Okay. Well, let's call a spade a spade. What happens is that $1 million a day comes in from John James Company. These are imported from China. Those products were typically made here, right here in Michigan. But because they're made in China, those people working don't have those jobs anymore. So those jobs are taken away. He did get an award from DEI because they're very woke, and all of those got special awards because that's what his company does. I've spent my entire life bringing quality and efficiency to companies here and across the entire country. I've created literally millions of jobs because of the fact that every single time that you make some company or organization more efficient, they suddenly get more business, and now more people are employed. In Michigan, we go and make it efficient. We eliminate the state income tax. It causes people to come here, and we suddenly have a way of getting $4,747 every year to every typical family in Michigan.
Mr. James, you have 30 seconds.
Perry Johnson's talking out of both sides of his mouth. He has ESG and DEI already wedged into his companies. They actually have the Italian standard for woke at his companies. And if you go look it up, look at Perry Johnson Outsourcing. Look at Perry Johnson Outsourcing. You'll be able to see the company he has headquartered in Bangalore, because he's done a more effective job creating jobs overseas than he does creating jobs in Michigan. I've created jobs in Michigan, and I'm proud of what my family's been able to do to assist and correct this. I'm a supplier in the automotive industry, and I'm excited to grow all industries as well.
Mr. Cox, 30 seconds.
I didn't know we were getting into DEI. I've never had DEI in any of my companies. And I did, as Rick knows, I led the fight in 2006 to enshrine anti-affirmative action DEI in our Constitution when all the elitists were against it. But getting back to workforce development, it's absolutely necessary we get our kids ready, especially in skilled trades and other badge professions where they can be AI-proof jobs. That's so important. I meet businessmen all across the country, tool and die folks, who need talent, and we should produce it.
Mr. Johnson, you may respond now.
Yes. Perry Johnson Outsourcing has no revenue, does nothing, doesn't exist. I spent my entire life bringing quality and efficiency to companies across the entire United States, starting right here in Michigan. In fact, in the early days, when he was in diapers, I introduced statistical process control in the auto industry, and that revolutionized the way things were made. Why? Because we suddenly didn't need inspectors anymore because the product was so good. We need ideas like this in Michigan so that we can eliminate that income tax.
We've already touched on this a little bit, but I want to get more specific about education. This will go first to you, Mr. Cox, for 60 seconds. It's certainly part of the equation when it comes to getting better jobs in the state, as you outlined just a moment ago. What do you do about Michigan's education system that is not getting the performance that most people would like to see, despite the fact that we're at record funding? 60 seconds.
We take the best practices of other states, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Fortuitously, when my daughter got out of the Marines back from fighting in Iraq, she moved with her husband to Mississippi. And I was angry. Why are you going to Mississippi? Our grandbabies will never get educated. But Mississippi, in the past 12 years, they went from 49th and 4th grade reading to 9th, while we went from a mediocre 31st to now 48th. How'd they do that? They did it by requiring phonics. They started helping kids struggling with reading as early as kindergarten and 1st grade with tutors, like my autistic special education baby, Vanna, grandbaby Vanna. And they required everyone to be able to read by 3rd grade. And they graded every public school. And you know what? If they could, they educated my granddaughter, and every kid in Michigan deserves that. What else do we do? We need to put more money in the classrooms. I proposed a 70-30 plan, that every school has to certify that 70% of the money it gets from the school aid fund is going in the classroom for teachers and kids, not for administration.
60 seconds, Mr.
We
Johnson.
need a Bill of Rights for parents. It starts with the parents. In addition, let's recognize charter schools are very effective, and we have to let the money follow the student. We also need that mega audit, because right now we wasted so much money. $1 billion a year was spent to try to ameliorate the quality of reading for people in 4th grade and under. And you'll notice when she took office, we were 26th in the country, and now we are 44th in the country in reading and reading 4th grade and under. They eliminated phonics. Mike is right there. When we are looking at something, we have to recognize that in order for us to make things better, we have to study what's going on. We have 235,000 fewer students now than we did 25 years ago. But we have roughly 28,000 more teachers. We have this huge network of bureaucracy administering. I say we go and let the teachers focus on getting the students better. And the trades are right. Let's have all the trades taught.
60 seconds, sir.
We'll all be happy to know if you go to johnjamesmi.com, you will find a parental bill of rights where it talks about things like parents having control, understanding the curriculum, and having common sense in our education system. I believe that when you give parents a choice, you give children a chance. I want all schools to be successful. Public, charter, homeschool, private school, the choice should be up to yours. A quality education is a basic civil right, and I'm going to fight for you and your kids. Also, curriculum. There should be an opt-in. There should be no NDAs. You should know what people are doing and saying to your children. We should be prioritizing academics over activism. And then we're going to be also prioritizing phonics and the science of reading over all kinds of the crazy woke agenda. And then common sense. We need to promote based upon mastery, making sure we don't leave anyone behind, but so making sure that we can also bring back a system so we know whether or not a kid can read, and if they can't, we got to give them more time. Accountability, and we also need to make sure that the money that we're spending actually makes it to the classroom. There's more school districts in Southeast Michigan than there are the entire state of Florida. We need to put that money back in the classrooms.
Mr. Cox, you have 30 seconds. We're still talking about education. It's important in Michigan.
It's been my passion. It's part of why I ran. Simply, during COVID, my grandbabies in Mississippi, they never shut the schools down. My autistic granddaughter, who is half-day special ed, half-day mainstream, kept progressing. I had people in my neighborhood, young girls, who my granddaughter used to play with, who went sideways. I agree with all the ideas they both said, but it takes someone who wins. I'm the only person who would go fight the MEA. If you want new reforms, you have to elect a winner. And I've won twice statewide, and neither one of these fellows has.
Mr. Johnson, 30 seconds.
Well, phonics obviously is key, and that's something we should have introduced. I start my kids when they're very young. I really think we should start the parents in that program, have the program from the age of about 1 or 2. But I do know that people have ignored the forest through the trees. We're running against Benson. And I'm the only one that's even run an ad against Benson. Because the bottom line is, we have to win this race. And I'm the guy to win the race because, frankly, I'm the only one that can even beat her. We have to go and recognize that we need to win the race as Republicans.
Mr. James, you have 30 seconds.
I was on the ballot with President Trump when Benson rigged it, and I outperformed him by 1.5 points. Since then, I've won twice in Southeast Michigan. Mike Cox hasn't won an election since before the iPhone was invented. And the last race that he ran in, he came in 3rd in the primary. We're going to be focusing on the things that we can deliver, and Republicans are going to be able to deliver a better school system because we are focused on the things that matter. Again, control, curriculum, and common sense, and that's what's best for our children's futures.
Rick, I would ask for a rebuttal. He attacked me on a totally different topic, electability.
I'll give you 10 seconds really quick.
Sure. I'm proud of the fact I spent the past 15 years creating a business and running it myself, while you spent the last 8 years running 5 different times for 3 different jobs. 3 different jobs.
We almost had a moment when agreement was breaking out here, so we're going to move on and see if we can find that again. We talked about affordability at the top of the show. I want to put a finer point on it because when it comes to housing, both the availability and cost are creating real concerns for people. I want to know, starting with you, Mr. Johnson, what you would do as governor to help people realize what has traditionally been the American dream of home ownership.
Well, we have to recognize when people don't have money and they can't even buy food, and they have to make a decision between that or books for the kids, they can't be thinking about a house. Now, my son started a mortgage company at 17. I know for 3% down, you can buy a house. If we eliminate the income tax, it's $4,747 for every typical family in Michigan every year. In 2 years, they'd have enough to buy a home. If we stop the government from wasting your money needlessly, we solve all of our problems. The key to this whole solution is making the government more efficient. That is the bottom line, because now the government is throwing away money. $1.8 billion, you say, okay, to try to create jobs. That's $400 for every person working. When you add all these other programs, $1 billion to try to increase the speed of the Amtrak trade, then you've got $1 billion for the education here. Suddenly you're up to real money. It's up to $1,000 for every working family.
Mr. James, you have 60 seconds to talk about housing affordability.
Address labor availability, enabling more skilled trades training, ensuring that our children, when they leave high school, they have a skill set, and then folks who are already there, they can earn and learn on the job, working with other public-private partnerships and industry-recognized apprenticeships, working on worker freedom so people can make the choice of how they will spend their time and money, lower property taxes, which is a burden and a barrier, making sure that we can protect Prop A against people who would rig it to make it more expensive for anybody to get into a house. We also need to push back on Gretchen Whitmer's terrible policies that are making it more expensive. Before a shovel hits the ground, it can cost over $100,000 because of just regulatory costs. We need to push back on the regulations and the tort environment, that's the legal or insurance environment, that makes it more expensive to build new homes. And then, especially for our young people and keeping them here, I'd be very interested in piloting a down payment assistance program in addition to the cutting the taxes that we have, personal income taxes, so more people can have more money in their pockets.
Mr. Cox, what do we do about affordability and getting folks in homes?
Sure. I agree with Perry on eliminating the income tax, because when you create more prosperity, you create more cash in people's pockets. And in fact, young couples, if they don't have to pay the income tax together for a couple of years, they get the ability to create that nest egg for the first down payment, then they stay here. What else do we need to do? We need to do 25% of every new house, according to the Michigan Home Builders Association, is regulatory costs. What does that mean? That means every time a developer wants to come to Caledonia, East Kentwood, or wherever, up and down 131, they can't get decisions from Eagle on wetlands permits, or they take forever, or they want to mitigate things. You go across the border to Indiana, it's a totally different ball game. And so you create more supply if you have a reasonable regulation. What else? Do you know that in 2022, MISHDA, which was supposed to help out with housing, had a budget of $750 million. It is now $2.6 billion, 4 times that, and they haven't done one thing. So it's cutting waste, it's refocusing MISHDA, and helping folks out.
30 seconds for you, Mr. Johnson.
There is no doubt We're one of the nuttiest states maybe in the entire country. You have somebody that wants to build something right there. We absolutely have more paperwork than any place in the country. But that goes back to my mega audit, the Michigan Efficiency Government Audit. Whenever you want to do anything, you first have to say, okay, let's size it up. Where are the weaknesses? What can we do to fix it? That is where my expertise comes in. I have spent my entire life doing this. I am the one guy that literally is the expert at trying to bring efficiency.
30 seconds, Mr. James.
Eagle's a problem. We absolutely need to reform that organization essentially at every single level. I mean, you can spit on your way to the garbage can and create a new wetland. That is creating a legal and regulatory burden that makes it more expensive to actually do things like grow and prosper. I'm looking forward to making sure we rein that in, and that would be among the first steps, getting lower regulatory barriers, of course preserving safety and security, air and water, but doing it in a manner that doesn't impede our ability to grow.
To wrap up this first segment, 30 seconds, Mr. Cox.
Well, I agree. As I stated, Eagle is a problem, right? We have Mishta is a problem. That's a matter of poor leadership. I actually reduced the size of my office by 21%. Sorry to spit that out. And that's about creating the ability to then eliminate the income tax. What else do we have? We have a runaway spending problem. It's been personified earlier. When you give out corporate welfare to companies like Congressman James's companies, you take dollars out of the pockets of working Americans and Michiganders.
All right. We are out of time for this first segment. Thank you all for remaining pretty close on timing throughout this. We hope that remains in the second half. We're going to take a short break, about 90 seconds. When we come back, we're going to talk about something that I think each of you in some form has already mentioned somewhat, and that's artificial intelligence. We'll talk about that when we get back. Candidates enter the spin room. Once our debate concludes, there's a QR code right now that will take you to our live post-debate coverage on WOOD TV. We'll be back in 90 seconds. Welcome back to Debate Week in Michigan. We are talking with Republican candidates for governor, and our next question goes first to you, Congressman James. Earlier, we were talking about jobs of tomorrow, and those jobs are likely to be impacted greatly by artificial intelligence. We're already seeing it. We're seeing people who are being displaced from their jobs because of AI. So what role, if any, does the state play when it comes to helping an emerging technology that holds a lot of promise and a lot of uncertainty? You have 60 seconds.
Of course, which is why I spoke initially about having AI-proof jobs, like what we're going to be doing to bring skilled trades into schools and having earn and learn, but also making sure that we have no new data centers until we have a plan to protect our people. I've been very clear on the standards of my moratorium, which is local control, making sure our electricity bills don't go up, protect our water, prevent pollution. That includes land, air, water, and noise pollution, and make sure that we prioritize blighted and brown fields over productive green farmland. This is going to require working with the legislature to repeal Public Act 233 that Gretchen Whitmer forced down our throats so that we can restore local control, and we can make sure that even though that this is a new emerging technology, we have control over it. We're not selling Michiganders down the river. We need to make sure we're continuing to compete with China. We need to make sure that we have a strong ag and auto sector, but also competing in tech and defense and maritime and hospitality are how we're going to also boost our revenue and make Michigan great again.
Mr. Cox, what do we do about AI?
We attack it with education, right? I've talked about the Mississippi Miracle. We prepare our children for the future. We prepare our adults for the future. That's the best thing. We can't put our head in the sand. We are at war with China over AI. That is very clear. So what do we need to do? We boost the skilled trades like I talked about. They are AI-proof. What else do we do? For those who aren't going to be in the skilled trades, we lower the income tax rate so they have more money that if they need to retrain or they have more flexibility, or they can do like I did, open their own business, right? We have the potential of actually capturing the wave of AI like we did 100 years ago with autos, or like we did 100 years ago with furniture here in Grand Rapids, and we can get ahead of the rest of the world. And so I say to all young people, it's a challenge, but we are all up to it. And as your governor, I'm going to fight for you fight against AI and fight for China, meaning fight the fight to win AI.
Artificial intelligence, it's here.
I'm particularly concerned about AI. That's why I was so against the kill switch. Because understand, with AI, China, Russia, they can take control of our car. Because when that goes into the car, with AI working, they are hacking everything. Every hospital in this country has been hacked. And that is why every Republican in the state voted against continuing to fund that kill switch, except, of course, John James. But John James has also issues that he realizes in terms of the data centers. He has people donating to him for those data centers, the people building it. He can't very well look the other way. I know that we have to go and prepare people. Obviously, philosophy is not the answer. Trades really is. Somebody gets into a trade, they can be their own businessman and their own entrepreneur in a matter of days, maybe months. The bottom line is that we have to recognize with every single development, we have to be on the aware. And we have to be particularly cautious right now that AI is dangerous.
John James, you have 30 seconds.
Perry, I know when you were born, black people could still be bought and sold in this country, but no one owns me. I actually am a part of the HR 1137. HR 1137 is literally called the No Kill Switches in Cars Act. And I was the very first congressman in the state of Michigan to get on that. I don't support any of that mess. In fact, President Trump signed my bill last year pushing back on harmful Biden-era mandates. And so this was actually a vote to support DHS funding, to support Customs and Border Patrol. But I would expect something like from somebody who primaried President Trump with $30 million to continue to fight against
30
him.
seconds for you, Mr.
I wanted to
Cox.
stay out of this, but Congressman James just lied. There was a vote up in January, a Republican vote to kill the kill switch bill, meaning if you voted, it was to end it, right, before it came in operation next year. He voted with all the Democrats against killing the kill switch. That's the reality. And while we're at it, if we're talking about China, I've lived through the distress of outsourcing with my family, and we need to talk about his relationship with China, and we'll get to that.
Mr. Johnson.
It's very important to understand that maybe John really can't help it because he has these groups that donate the money to him. He has one PAC that donated $5 million, and then he has other PACs that donate money to him for different efforts. Now he's obligated. He owes them something. When he ran for office, do you understand, $190 million of other people's money was spent. That's an enormous amount of money. He lost a race by a record amount, and he spent a record amount in the other race.
All right, we're going to move on with this question, and I think...
Do I get a rebuttal, Rick? Is that 30 seconds?
I can't give you 30 seconds.
Okay.
I'll give you 15 seconds quickly to respond to that since he mentioned you directly.
When you don't have a record to run on your own, you tear down mine. I would expect this from Never Trumpers to side with Massey when the president told all of us that we needed to support his agenda to get Customs and Border Patrol funding through. And as President Trump in his endorsement stated, that I'm strong on border security, and I will stay strong on border security as your governor.
This next question is going to go first to you, Mr. Cox. And again, this is something you have all touched on a little bit, but I put this question to the Democratic Senate candidates on Tuesday night. I'll give you the same premise, and that is about data centers. They are going to be built somewhere. There's no question about that. So the question is, should the state of Michigan embrace them, disallow them, or put guardrails on them? 60 seconds.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up. I have a simple rule, Rick, which is let the people decide, not the politicians. I've been campaigning on that for the past 18 months. Others have jumped around on their positions. I haven't. What does that mean? That means that local communities ought to control the character of their community. Local control, it is what it means. Some communities may want a data center and to refurbish a brownfield area or for any other reasons and cut a good deal. I won't get in the way of that community, but I will require that the data center build all the energy needed for that plant, and that none of us lose any of our availability, accessibility to energy, or our costs go up. You know, I'm the only person here who's fought and beat the utilities, saved ratepayers billions. I'm the only person here who's ever fought and beat big tech. So as your governor, when I win, because I'm the only person who's won before, I will protect your right to decide on data centers.
What do we do about this?
Well, I think everybody knows I called for a moratorium on data centers, primarily because we don't know the damage. So, we do know for a fact that the sound waves will damage babies, and they can travel for a mile. We also know there are carcinogen effects, and we have to be concerned about what's going to happen to that data center in 6 or 7 years. We talked about AI. AI is moving at an amazing speed, and I'm in that business. So when I say this, we have to recognize that's more powerful than the computer we had for Apollo. Data centers, and then we have this eyesore. Who is going to remediate that? Who's going to clean it all up? We have no provisions for that. What I do say is this: we probably have the best climate, we have the most coastline, we're ideal for data centers. That's true. We should never be incentivizing people to build data centers. And I will not take any money from anyone who's building a data center.
Data centers coming to Michigan or not?
I've stated this since the first of last year, that data centers have to have local control. They have to make sure that our electricity bills don't go up, that we need to protect our water, we need to prevent pollution, and we need to prioritize blighted and brown fields over productive green farmland. I'm glad that my opponents have adopted my position, but yes, this is the standard that we must adopt in order to make sure that we can continue to lead forward. Perry's got more dollars than cents, and he's writing himself checks, and he spent over $60 million, and he hasn't won a race. That should tell you about his priorities, his own vanity campaign. They're attacking me, and I'm attacking the issues. They're more concerned about me. I'm more concerned about you. Mike Cox brags about cutting energy rates, but when he is AG, energy costs for ratepayers went up 50%. That's not the type of leadership we need. We need someone who's going to actually produce, and I've won twice in Southeast Michigan, and I've won within the past generation. Mike Cox won 20 years ago, completely irrelevant to today, and I actually came a little bit ahead of President Trump in 2020 when Jocelyn Benson rigged the election.
I guess you're saying he's better showed up President Trump. I'm proud of being out of politics for the past 15 years. Like I said, in the past 8 years, you've run for office 5 times.
And won twice.
May I continue?
You may continue.
5 times, 3 different offices. In fact, 44 days after you won your current term, you said you want to run for governor. And that's after the Republican Party spent $55 million on you. The reality is, when it gets hot, you jump. You don't want to be governor. You want to be president. And so you wanted to run for Senate, didn't work. You ran for Congress, which is only 1/15.
Mr. Johnson.
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, everybody knows that we did spend a record amount. That is, the Republicans spent a record amount trying to get him elected, $100 million, and we did lose. That we know, okay? But I'm not going to beat a dead horse over this. Right. What I am going to point out very simply is that it is very important to understand that we must keep Michigan first, and we must keep the citizens first. So we can't have special interest groups. For example, Consumers Power has increased our rates endlessly. So if somebody donated $39,000 to me, I would refund it, and John won't.
Mr. James, 30 seconds.
When I am governor, we're going to make sure that we reform MPSC, and that means to make sure that the energy regulators are held to account, and those who are not aligned with lowering energy rates for the taxpayers are going to be relieved of duty, in other words, fired. We're going to be making sure that these data centers are in accordance with the wills of the locals and making sure they don't degrade anything we have here. Because again, we need to grow our economy, and these are the ways that we're going to lower our property taxes in a way that actually matters in reality rather than fantasy numbers.
Gentlemen, as I told you at the beginning, we're going to truncate this last answer. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to answer this question that 8 years ago we heard a lot about fixing roads. It was just last year that a funding mechanism was found in Lansing for that. With some of you advocating doing away with some taxes, will there be enough money to continue the ongoing, ever ongoing role of fixing roads in the state of Michigan? You have 30 seconds, sir.
One of the biggest expenses we have is labor. If we use better material, maybe it would cost us 20% more, but the roads can last 3 times longer. What happens is special interest groups put money into a campaign, and then you're beholden to that special interest group, and now they have to be given favorable consideration. That is the problem with politics right now. That's why you need an outsider. because that person is not beholden to anyone. He can lean the government without anyone
You've got to
leaning
move
on
along. Mr. James, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm going to be focused on local roads, just like I have been delivering for the people of the 10th Congressional District. We got funding for local surface streets in Clinton Township. We did infrastructure projects in Mount Clemens. And we also got Mound Road funding from 696 to 8 Mile. We're going to continue using the resource that we have to get funding from the federal government that you deserve. And the state legislature already got us funding. We're going to make sure we focus that funding on local roads so your local roads are fixed.
Mr. Cox, 30 seconds.
That $6 billion that went for corporate welfare, including $2 million to Mr. James' company, I'm going to stop that. And we can use that money to fix our roads. We have the 6th highest gas tax in the country. We have third world roads. I will fix that. I will reform Public Act 51. I will embrace new technologies like rubberized asphalt. And I will deliver value just like I did when I was Attorney General. By the way, I fought and saved $3 billion. I've actually done something in rate reductions.
We're going to do this real quickly. 15 seconds to wrap up on roads.
The bottom line is you need to have a mega audit to determine the best way to build roads so they'll last. That way, we're going to have a lasting effect. It all boils down to quality and efficiency. That's my entire theme from the beginning of time.
Mr. James, 15 seconds on roads.
Mike Cox is telling a fib again. When he was Attorney General, his budget went up 20%. He wasn't cutting anything but his own future at that particular point in time. I'm going to be focusing on you and making sure that we continue the momentum of making your roads in the state great again.
15 seconds, sir.
Sure. I'm not going to be a person who's running for every office, the eternal candidate, and wants to be president someday. I'm going to be focused on fixing the problems of Michiganders, including the roads, fixing education, and eliminating the income tax so we can all join prosperity that my parents came here for.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you. It's come to that time for summations. We'll start with you. You have 60 seconds, Mr. James.
Sure. We need to restore Michigan, and I'm the best up here to do that because I'm focused on you. I'm focusing on the things that will help restore Michigan by restoring hope, by restoring wellness, by restoring trust, by restoring beauty, and by restoring family. We are bought at a price. We were made for a purpose in the image of God for greatness. This is an amazing state with all the great ingredients, but for the past 7.5 years under Gretchen Whitmer, we've been led to higher taxes, more crime on the roads, and frankly, the roads we have aren't fixed yet. We're going to work together to make sure that our children can read, to make sure that we put criminals in jail and we hold those accountable who continue to let them back out. And we're going to be making sure that we come together to accomplish the mission of increasing hope and purpose with tested, positive leadership that has actually been tested from the battlefield to business to delivering for you right now. I'm excited for the opportunity to serve you, and I want to thank you for being here tonight.
Mr. Cox, 60 seconds, sir.
Rick, I want to thank you and WOOD TV for sponsoring this. I want to say this simple thing. Despite the sniping, I want everyone out there to think about this. Freedom is on the ballot in November. Freedom from an overarching government that's shut down your schools, shut down your churches, and shut down your business. Freedom from school districts that think they can indoctrinate your children. And freedom from a state government that thinks that every time you go to work, they get the right to pick your pocket. What's on the ballot in August? Winning that freedom. Because we won't win the freedom in November if we don't have someone who can win. I'm a Marine. I'm the son of immigrants. I'm a homicide prosecutor. I was an attorney general, and I'm the only person who's actually won statewide. Won statewide. Not a congressional district, statewide twice. I beat the same guy that Mr. James lost to. I know how to get it done because I'm the son of a working class. I'm not the son of the CEO class. Thank you very, very much again, WOOD TV, for doing this.
Mr. Johnson, 60 seconds.
John James said that President Trump is unfit to lead and can't be trusted. Of course, I think he's great, but I've spent my entire life bringing quality and efficiency to organizations. DOD, Navy, and 60,000 companies. It's a specific skill set, and I want to take that skill set and bring quality and efficiency to our state government. In that way, we can eliminate all this craziness that goes on and get rid of that income tax. We also have to reform the property tax so people 65 and older are not in a position where they have to get rid of their home. I have 3 boys, 217, 122. I want them to stay in this state. Now, I know the key get rid of the income tax. I know I'm an outsider. I'm funding my own campaign. I'm beholden to no one. And because of that, I'm in an ideal position to be able to bring the quality and efficiency to Michigan. And I will be leaning our government with no one leaning on me.
I want to thank you all for being here tonight. It's an important exercise in democracy, and I appreciate that you don't always agree with each other, but at least you were here to exchange ideas, and I thank you very much for that. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that people are already voting right now. You can get that early ballot if you want to, and so I would encourage people to consider what they've heard here tonight and make that decision going forward. I want to thank everybody that helped us with this, not just here at WOOD TV, but from our corporate structure and all of our partners across the state that are carrying this debate, so it truly is debate week in Michigan. It's been a pleasure to have you. I wish you all the best of luck, and for now, I'll say good night from Grand Rapids.
Good night.